The New York Jets on Thursday get harassed. Mike White gets hurt. He was on a tailspin. Everybody thought he was the next big thing since sliced bread, maybe the next Linsanity. I called it White Sanity, but Mike White gets hurt in the first quarter. Took the ball all the way down, touchdown, obviously, to Elijah Moore. He had 2 touchdowns. He has 3 touchdowns in 2 games. He's playing good football right now, as we expected him to be. Maybe he's starting to figure things out. Mike White hurts his forearm, gets pulled for the game. Johnson comes in, throws over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and everybody probably thinks that Johnson's
yay, garbage time.
Yes, but I'm not taking shots at Mike White. Mike White is a good quarterback. I do believe that there'll be a lot of teams interested in him in the offseason because he will be unrestricted. The Jets could obviously get a pick for him, but all in all, if their team's interested in him, he's going to go elsewhere because they're not going to be able to pay him. Zach Wilson is getting all that he can handle right now sitting on the bench with a 26-year-old journeyman that's been in the league for 4 years. So nothing new about that, but the Jets lose 45-30 against Carson Wentz and the Bag-A-Lot Indianapolis Colts. And I say Bag-A-Lot because sometimes I wonder if they're bagging the ball and they're just running. But last week they decided to throw. They lost against Tennessee. So Frank Reich decided to say, you know what, we're going to run the ball against the Jets. And they did a good job. The Jets front 7 did not play well. And you saw what happened. They put a 45 on the New York Jets defense, which has been one of the best defenses in the league. Not surprised. That was a big game for the Colts. They needed that game if they planned to make the playoffs. Right. It's going to be very, very interesting moving forward for both the New York Jets on my friend thinks they're jinxed, the injuries that they have.
So does Mark.
I don't understand that. I don't think they're jinxed. I don't think they're hexed.
If the Browns could overcome it, I'm sure any other team in professional sports
This is what happens. You're playing a full contact sport. I don't know why anybody expects that because a team isn't 100% healthy, they're jinxed. There are a lot of teams dealing with it. The Cowboys played without their starting quarterback and still won last week.
The Lions still haven't won a game yet.
The Lions haven't won a game yet, and they're fully healthy. What does that tell you? I don't think the Jets are jinxed. I just think that right now the Jets, it's not working on the Jets side. And hopefully, as the young quarterback comes back, Mekhi Beckham comes back, and this offensive line starts to get full, I think that this team will be a lot better than they have showed the last couple of weeks. And even last week when Mike White threw 400 yards and 37 for 45, that defense in certain aspects of the game did not play well. So
at least the youth is playing well, though, for the Jets. Elijah Moore had 2 touchdowns, a beautiful route on that first one. Elijah Vera Tucker's played phenomenally the last 5 weeks. So that end of it is good at least. The defense has had their woes against the run this year, but they've done well against the pass. It was a little more of a rough game against the Colts with Carson Wentz in terms of the deep balls, but Carson Wentz wasn't super consistent, though. It wasn't like he was stringing it together like you see an Aaron Rodgers or a Tom Brady picking apart the defense. They had some big plays here and there, but it wasn't egregiously, we're going to move down the field methodically either. So the Jets certainly had their moments too, but we'll see now losing Marcus May for a while, maybe for the season.
This season. I think he tore his Achilles, and that's another thing that he was saying. That's why they're jinxed. I don't think they're jinxed. I do believe that the Jets are just not a winning team, and they're not a winning organization, and they're rebuilding. They're the youngest team in football by a long shot. It's not even close. I think Miami is like a year older than they are. And that's a significant number when you're trying to compare and contrast these players. What do they have? 2 or 3 veterans on the team?
Getting rid of Frank Gore must have helped that total out, too.
I mean, C.J. Mosley's a veteran. If you want to call Quinn Williams, he's only been in the league for 3 years.
Right.
These are kids. Rankins is obviously a veteran, but he's 26 years old. They're a very young team and a little wet behind the ears. They have a young coach. They have a young offensive coordinator, even a young GM. So this is not a veteran team. And until they figure out things and they figure out what their strengths and their weaknesses are, they're going to continue playing like this. So all the Jet fans that are jumping off the boat right now because Mike White is hurt, and they were talking about trading Marcus May. Losing Marcus May for the season, does it really matter? Seriously. Does it really make a difference? It doesn't. The Jets aren't going to the playoffs and not winning the Super Bowl, so it doesn't matter. So I understand Jet fans are upstairs, upset, and maybe upstairs. I said upstairs, so maybe they're climbing up the stairs and wondering if they can get all the way on top of the bridge so they can jump. But I don't think when you look at the Jets and the position that they're in, you thought that they were going to be any better than they are right now. As far as Odell Beckham is concerned, obviously he was dropped on Friday by the Browns. I wasn't surprised. We knew he was going to be released. Now people are probably going to bid for him because he's still a very healthy guy. I think he's ready to play. I think there's numerous amount of teams that could use a player that prolific, that could open up the offense and the book of the offense. I've been saying the Green Bay Packers. A lot of people have been posting him in a Green Bay Packers jersey. I think he fits very, very well there. Now, I know, Speedy, you said he's from Louisiana. Why not the Saints? I I don't think the Saints are a playoff team. Even if they get Odell Beckham, I don't think that makes them a better team because they have Taysom Hill throwing him the ball. So I don't think that's a good fit for him. Tampa could be if he clears waivers, or even Kansas City. If they could somehow clear waivers, they can get him too. I don't know. But I know Green Bay has money. I know Green Bay can absolutely give him a contract of $5 or $4 million or whatever they decide they want to give him for the rest of the year. I think he fits there. I think that you give Aaron Rodgers that other weapon that he's been craving for and complaining about, and maybe this makes him happy, and maybe if they can re-sign Odell Beckham in the offseason, he stays there in Green Bay with Odell Beckham and Davante Adams.
Now, I said the Saints as a possibility because of the Louisiana connection, but they're going to have to make money work because the Saints right now only have $1.09 million in salary cap right now. So they're going to have to shed some other money to make that kind of thing work. So if they're going to do it, it's probably
he's going to want $4 to $5 million.
Yeah, it's probably going to have to be for a rental if the Saints are going to do it, which I don't know if that necessarily would make sense for them because the Saints need it also long term too. So they're going to have to make a lot of money work. Another team I could see definitely doing it is the Ravens. A lot of different reasons. One, they have money. I think their salary cap is ranked 12th in the league right now. They have a team culture that I think can help stabilize Odell's quote unquote antics. And three, if Odell is really that mad at the Browns and Baker Mayfield and Kevin Stefanski,
gets to play against them
twice a year, sticking it to them, going off on them if he plays well to keep him out of the playoffs, why not?
That makes a lot of sense. And maybe Pittsburgh, if they want a veteran,
they're another team
wide receiver
with a lot of salary.
Well, but also Schuster will be gone next year. I don't think they're bringing him back.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So maybe they bring him into the season, the rest of the season. But Pittsburgh is not a playoff team. Buffalo's another team that if he clears waivers, that would be a good fit for him, playing with Josh Allen. I just don't know if Buffalo's going to bring in a veteran wide receiver that causes a lot of trouble in the locker room.
Right.
They're a good team right now. Why would they bring in a guy that is a cancer in the locker room? Doesn't make sense. So I think Green Bay would be a great fit because Aaron Rodgers is a leader, and I think he can control Odell Beckham and shut him up, and they could feed him the ball. And he needs a guy that could go out there and get the ball, and he's a deep threat. And that's something, even though Davante Adams has been a great positional deep threat wide receiver for this team, I think they need another one on the other side. And I think it'll open up the field for Davante Adams, maybe even make Davante Adams even better. And that's crazy to say because he's a top 3 wide receiver when healthy. So I look at Green Bay. I think he's the perfect fit for the Green Bay Packers. Is he going to go to Green Bay? If he does, I can tell you I was right because I've been saying that since I heard that Green Bay would be the perfect fit for him. And I think it'll make Aaron a lot happier with, obviously, they didn't do in the offseason to help him out.
Yeah.
As far as everything else that's going in the NFL, obviously the trade deadline passed. The Jets made a move, and they got themselves a good offensive lineman, a guy that hasn't been on the field for 18 months, so he needs to figure things out. But he's a good guard. I wouldn't say he's an elite guard, but he's
serviceable.
He's a middle-of-the-pack type of guard where the Jets can use him next year if they decide to move from Van Roten, which I think that's what they're going to do.
That's inevitable.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Maybe they draft a center and maybe another tackle in the draft with all the draft stock that they have this year. I definitely believe they'll solidify that offensive line to protect Zach Wilson or Mike White.
Yeah, you were mentioning last week the kid Lindenbaum from Iowa as being a high draft target with the Seattle pick.
Yep, and also with the Jets. Neal right there for Alabama. I mean, he's the best offensive tackle in this draft.
That kid's nice.
You put him on the other side with Mekhi Beckham, or you put Mekhi Beckham on the right side, and you put him on the left. You could do a lot with those two guys. They're two behemoths and two young guys that you could build your roster and your team around. Something that the Dallas Cowboys did for the last, I would say, 10 years to protect Tony Romo.
Mekhi Beckham is 340-something pounds, and Evan Neal is 331, I believe it is, 6'5", 331.
I mean, you have two really big men who are very, very young, who are positional players that could be there for a very long time. And then you add Elijah Vera Tucker. Maybe you go after the Iowa center. And then all you got to worry about really is maybe one guard position. And that's it. And you really solidify that offensive line.
If Tardif is at least solid as your 5th offensive lineman, that's great.
I mean, you're really positioned in a very good way for the future for this team. So it's going to be a very interesting offseason for the Jets. As far as the trade deadline, Von Miller goes to the Rams. The Rams trade away more draft picks, not surprise. So they won't have draft picks for the next 3 years.
They're all in terms of trading draft picks. They have to kind of commit to it at this point.
And
you know
what's funny? When we had Doug Hyde from the NFL on the show, I really wanted to ask him, if this is the case and this happens, if they lose and they don't win a championship this year, does McVay get fired? You gave up your whole future to win this year because it's in LA. And if you don't win, you're not going to be able to bring Von Miller back. He's too expensive. He's going to want, I wouldn't say a big contract, but he's going to want about $35-40 million. He's still one of the best pass rushers in the league when healthy. He's going to get money. There's no way they're going to be able to afford him. They just gave Ramsey and Darnold a really big contract. Matthew Stafford, Cup's going to want a contract.
Well, he got one.
He got one already. Matthew Stafford, I think, has one more year left on his contract, and he's going to be available. They got to re-sign him. They're so deep into these salaries where they're not going to be able to bring Von Miller back unless he takes a big, huge pay cut, which I don't believe he will. So Von Miller goes for a second and a third round.
The second round pick's this year. The third round is next year.
Yeah. They put themselves in a position where they have to win this year. And their favorite, obviously, one of the favorites of probably 4 NFC teams. And then there's 4 AFC teams that really stand out. Kide says there's only really 2 of them. The Chargers and the Buffalo Bills.
I would add the Ravens in that mix.
If the Chargers get in, they're scary good. And with a rookie coach, I don't know if I trust a rookie coach, but with Justin Herbert playing the way he is and the way that defense is playing, they can stay in every single game. It's just the traveling is going to hurt them. So they got to make sure that they win that division. If they win that division, they're positioned very, very well to play more home games than away games, and maybe only have to go to the AFC title game away, which helps them.
You got to hope, too, that your fan base will actually show up and actually support you in a playoff game, because we've seen the Chargers and the Rams both have issues with road teams coming into L.A. and dominating that crowd.
They have to show up. They didn't show up against the Patriots, and they laid up a lousy goose egg, and they were a better team. They know they're a better team than the Patriots, as well as one of their wide receivers speaking up after the game saying that we're much better than this team. I can't believe we lost against this team. You heard the crazy attacks from the Chargers locker room after the Patriot game. But play better. Justin Herbert's got to play better. The last 2 weeks has not played at the top of his game. We know what he can do. We know he's a dangerous quarterback. And I believe, honestly, I think he's a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes.
This season he is, yeah.
I think he is. Yes, Patrick Mahomes is a good quarterback. But he has a lot of praise because of all the weapons that he had. And over the last couple of years with the offensive line, they broke it up. They thought that this offensive line was going to be better. They overpaid for so many different players. They made a trade for Brown, who was at one point a Pro Bowl type of tackle. He hasn't played well. That offensive line, Thuney hasn't played well this year. This offensive line hasn't played well all season long. And then obviously drafting the center that they did, they thought he was going to be a good player. I know it's early, so we don't know what he's going to be. But it takes a little while for this offensive line to figure things out.
Brown's also not a natural left tackle, too. He had to transition just this year to a whole new scheme, too. Yeah. And a different type of offense, too. The Ravens are run-heavy with Greg Roman, the RPO stuff. The Chiefs, they do RPOs, yes, but they're not as run-heavy of an offense as the Ravens are.
There wasn't any big trades. I think the Von Miller was the big one that stood out. Zach Ertz going to Arizona was a big sign of what Arizona wants to do this year. They did lose J.J. Watt for the season. He will be out with the shoulder surgery that he's going to have. So that definitely hurts them. Kyler Murray isn't 100%. They lost their first game last week against Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers, obviously, he's going to be sitting out because he wasn't vaccinated. The turmoil and how mad he is right now with the NFL opening their mouths and telling everybody that he wasn't vaccinated. He is not very happy with the NFL or the Green Bay Packers on how that slipped out. But I'm not surprised it slipped out because the Green Bay Packers don't like him. And the NFL just likes turmoil. It's turmoil, and that's what it causes. As far as the Giants are concerned, it is a very big week for the Giants. And I'm so sick and tired of hearing Russell Wilson might have an opportunity to go to the Giants next year. Him and Ciara want to go to a big city. Doug Kye talked about it the other day. I know Tyler was smiling and so happy. Good for him. It's not happening. First of all, do the Giants have the money to do that?
Money, I think they're okay, but pricey with the draft picks is what I'm more concerned about with them because they need a lot.
I wouldn't do it.
I wouldn't do it either because I think it'll be too much draft compensation to spend.
I mean, he'll make the team a lot better. It'll make Saquon Barkley a better running back.
If he's even there.
He will definitely be there. If Russell Wilson is traded to the Giants, expect Saquon Barkley to be here. You know that it's a weapon that he will use, and obviously you need a top-end running back in that kind of offense, especially with Russell Wilson, the way he likes to run the ball. The question is it going to happen? And I don't think it will. I don't think it makes sense for the Giants. I think Daniel Jones makes sense for the Giants. They got to give him the players that will work around him. Kenny Golladay is not the guy. That was a big mistake.
Yeah.
And it is going to catch up to them, and it probably is going to get Gettleman fired. I've been hearing stories that the Giants are already looking for his replacement. They haven't interviewed. They can't do that until the season ends, but I'm not surprised that you're hearing stories that the Giants are going to be. And that could be a real big problem for Joe Judge because if they bring in a GM, the GM's going to want to bring in his own coach. That's what usually happens. So Joe Judge, 2 years here where all the Giant fans were so excited for him last year, even though he was 6-10, he could be on his way out. And back with the Patriots like every other coach.
Yeah, right.
This is going to be a crazy offseason for the Jets and the Giants. But the Jets, I believe, are set with their GM and their coaches. I don't think the Giants are. Nope. And I think the Giants are headed for a huge turmoil. And if they bring in a new GM and a new coach, I don't think Russell Wilson will be the guy either, because it doesn't make sense. Why would a young coach or a new coach say, you know what, let's bring in a veteran quarterback who's very talkative in the locker room and has enough to say as our leader of our team? It doesn't make sense.
Also, Seattle, too. I think their GM, even though they've been weird lately, their GM has been respected across the league and has been good for a while until probably only the last 2 years. So I don't know if they're going to have the same level of respect for a new GM.